In today's video, we're going to answer this question. Hey Phil, you said that you like the Eart guitars for beginners, but do you think it's good enough for a professional player? So today, we're going to figure out how good the guitar really is. And before we get started, I just want to point out that this video is sponsored by Puretone output jacks. The Eart guitar that we're using in this video is the T380 that we acquired off Amazon. This guitar is $399, which puts it on the high end, or the upper high end of beginner's guitars, but still it's considered in the beginner guitar territory. So let's see. And why I was interested in this is I have a G&L similarly spec'd, but believe it or not, my G&L actually doesn't have as many of the features as this guitar, and this is 20% of what the G&L went for. And again, this had some features that G&L didn't. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about the neck. It is a roasted maple neck, roasted maple fretboard. This is a two-piece, and it's got the spindle truss rod at the base. You have 22 stainless hemispherical frets. We'll get into that in the geeky stuff. A bone nut, again, and then they're basic tuners. They're very cool. In fact, I don't know if they're having these made or if they found a distributor that had these. Whatever it is, it really classes up the guitar and they feel fantastic. The actual way, the tactile response, the way it feels. We'll get into the way they feel when you turn them in the geeky stuff and how sloppy the gears are or not. So we'll go in there. We have two string trees. We're using basic string trees. Nothing fancy there. What we have is what they call a compound neck. So the back of the neck is compound. It's a C to a U. That feels like what I'm feeling. We'll check that in the geeky stuff. And a compound radius fretboard that's going from 9.5 to 14. So you can see just on the neck features alone, it's almost like worth it just to get the neck. Now the next part is interesting. It's a roasted mahogany body. So they said they're doing that to lighten the body. This guitar is not necessarily light. It feels like 8 pounds to me. We'll weigh it in the geeky stuff. You have a tummy carve that's really cool. You got the arm carve, which is also very cool. And the way they did the arm carve is really nice. It's more contoured than normal. And I mean, looking at this, the way they did this and this paint job, I mean, it looks like a $1,000 guitar just from the appearance alone. We have blue pearl. So it's obviously a blue paint and they put pearl pigment into it. It's very subtle. You have a 4-bolt neck or 4-screw neck with 4 furls. They don't use a plate. They contoured it and they actually added this piece right here that's supposed to make it easier for you to handle the neck. We call that the handshake, and it's pretty comfortable, although it's still hard to get to the 22nd fret. It can be done. Actually, it's not that bad. So it's a pass. I'd say that's okay. And then we have a volume and tone and a 3-way switch with a mini switch. They claim that you can get a ton of switching combinations. We'll go over the sound samples and listen to those. They have a Godot style bridge. It's really that's all it is. It's just a regular 2-point tremolo system that's modeled after the Godot bridge, and it looks fine. And then the back plates, we have a recessed one for the cavity and a one on the top for the tremolo, which is a pretty standard feature for most guitars. 2 strap buttons, 2 humbucker pickups, which are theirs. We'll go over those. All right, that's your feature set. Let's get into the geeky stuff. Okay, so let's start with the guitar and let's take a look at the headstock. And this is what I was talking about. Do you see these really cool tuning keys? See how they're kind of rounded? They look really great. Let's go ahead and flip them over. See right here? Very cool. Now these are 21-to-1 ratio, so what I look for is how they slip and when I'm tuning them up, and I didn't find any issues with this. So what I want to do now is check the nut, and I'm going to insert this. This is the same fret wire that they're using. And what I noticed right away is, if I turn this way, I did that on purpose to show you that you can tell it's kind of sticking right there, which is good, and almost on the B string, and then it's pretty loose on the low E. So again, the nut looks like it's cut very well. It can be cut a little bit deeper, but this is perfect. Like I said all the time, you want them to cut it just shallow of exactly what you need, because that way, if you ever need to cut it a little bit more, you can. And again, some of you guys, I've showed you this trick before. You can use your finger, push down on the 3rd fret, and just go ahead and lightly tap. And you can see that movement. That means, like I said, you have a little play, but watch here. If I go here, see, you're right on the fret. That's kind of what I want. Okay, looking at the action, we have the action at 2.25 millimeters off the 12th fret, or about 0.09. And so again, just a little on the high side across all the strings. Now they are showing relief in the neck. If you look there, there's a gap right there, which means that if we straighten the neck just a little bit, we might solve some of that action. Let's go ahead and do that. So what I did is I confirmed this is a dual action truss rod, which means you can use the truss rod on this neck to make it perfectly straight if you'd like. Give it some underbow or overbow. It's a very nice option. And that immediately got the action at 2 millimeters off the 12th fret, or 0.08, which again, it's just a little bit better for playability. And of course you saw that's how easy it was. Sometimes you'll adjust it from the bridge. Sometimes you need to straighten the neck, but in this case, straightening it solved the problem. Now looking at the 1st fret, I am seeing exactly what they're saying. It is 9.5-inch radius and a 14-inch radius by the 12th fret. So it is a compound radius neck, like they stated. They're also taking the time to roll the fretboard edge, which really feels good and gives it that broken in feeling of a guitar that's been played for many years. And you can imagine how the difference in that feels. Okay, so let's take a look, and absolutely you can see they're using a C carve. You can see this template has a little bit more space in it, but that's definitely the C carve. And exactly that, you can see you're also having a U. So there is a C to a U shape, like they said. So let's get the dimensions on that. On the 1st fret, we have the thickness at 21.58 millimeters, or 0.849. And on the 12th fret, we have it at 0.853, or 21.68 millimeters. Okay, so on the width of the nut, we have it at 42.41 millimeters, or 1.669. And the 12th fret, we have it at 2.061, or 52.36 millimeters. So right here, you can see where it says that the guitar is made in China, and that's where I've seen most of these Eart guitars coming from. Now I want to go over and look at the frets. Now, of course, we talked about these hemispherical frets before and how they round them over, and I have a little video showing you how they do that. I want to show you how they do this because it is very work intensive. What they do is they basically round off the edges of the fret, especially this stainless steel fret, before it even goes on the fretboard. Then they go ahead and remove a section of the blade underneath so they can drop it right into the fretboard and have a perfect fret end, as you can see right here. And one of the questions that came up on the last videos was, if they're doing what I'm saying, why is there lines right there? Well, believe it or not, what they're doing is they're cutting a line across the entire fretboard, and then they're insetting a piece of like maple or plastic there. So those are inserts. It's like I said, the fret does not come to the end. It just makes it look that way. They're just capped off. Why do they cut it across and then inset them in? It's probably just because it's faster. Like I said, they're just doing the polishing work on the frets before they go into the guitar. Again, they're trying to give you the best fret at a very fast and affordable price. Okay, so let's go ahead and test the frets. We're gonna do 1 fret at a time, moving slowly. Here we go. I get asked a lot in the comments why I put so much emphasis on fretwork when I'm doing reviews, and it's because as a guitar tech, that's what I charge the most for when I'm doing setups. If you have to do fretwork, you're going to double or triple the cost of the setup. I like to give you the feedback on the guitars I come across that have good and bad fretwork. This guitar did not have any dead spots. However, there was a little bit more buzz or rattle than I like, but it was definitely okay. Go ahead and do a friction test where I would move that from side to side. These are stainless steel and they're highly polished, and they feel fantastic. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the sock test and see how well the ends are done. I expect these to do perfect because they rounded them over and they are perfect. Let's go ahead and do the bass side. And perfect. Looking at the pickup, we can see that it's nondescript. This is just a neck pickup. There's some numbers on there and a barcode, but nothing that would tell us anything. So let's go ahead and spec these pickups out. They are not shielding the inside of the cavities, which again isn't super important, but I'm just taking note of it. Looking at the pickups, we have the bridge at 15.95K and the neck is at 8.23. So again, we're gonna have a pretty aggressive wound pickup here with a lot of windings. This one a little bit lower. Let's go ahead and look at the inductance. Okay, looking at the bridge, we are 6.29 and the neck at 4.43. So again, I kind of expect these pickups to sound really, really bright and then really, really bassy. So we'll see how those sound. Okay, so time to take a look inside the cavity. First thing we're gonna notice is some shielding paint. You can see where they didn't get it all. They made some messy spots, but let's just double check, make sure it's shielding paint. And here we go. We're gonna go ahead and do that. And there you go, one more time. And yep, we're getting conductivity from touching the 2 points. And let's do that, let's double check. And again here, there you go. And there you go. So they obviously used the shielding paint, and like I said, they did the cavity. What we then have is two 500K potentiometers. These are the large diameter potentiometers, but they're pretty inexpensive branded ones, but they probably do the job, no problem. You have a 0.22 microfarad capacitor. This is your switch for your coil splitting. This is how they're doing that. You have your two wires going here, and this is going to ground. That's how you're doing that. Three-way switch. Look right here. They're actually using a mechanical switch instead of a PC board style switch. Very nice. Nice to see the quality. In fact, all this stuff in here, this is legit. These potentiometers are, like I said, they might be on the more inexpensive style, but all these components would last no problem. So nothing really to replace in there. Let's look at the output jack. Okay, so I have to show you this. I did, if you watch my deep dive of one of the Eart guitars, I will put a link in the description down below. In that guitar, it looked like there was Gibson pickups, or at least the Gibson pickups made for Epiphone. I actually reviewed two Eart guitars or Eart guitars that had that. I thought that was a coincidence. However, looking here, right here, plain as day, that is an Epiphone output jack in this guitar. So there is something up, because that is now 3 of these Eart guitars where I have found Gibson / Epiphone parts in them. And I can't imagine that's a coincidence. So something might be going on. What I think this is as you know, Epiphone is made in China, so maybe they're buying their parts from the Epiphone factory. Maybe somebody knows in the comments, let me know. But looking at this output jack, it's pretty basic. It looks okay. I always like to show you for comparison. Here's a switchcraft style one, and you can see just a little bit stronger, thicker piece of metal right there, but this one's not so bad, probably because it's spec'd for an Epiphone. And since I pointed that out, I really should point out the sponsor of today's video, which is Puretone output jacks. They use 4 points of contact with the cable that really secures the cable, and that's why I've been using them for the last 3 to 4 years, and I'll put a link to them in the description down below. Something else I want to show you is right here is where the whammy bar arm goes in, and you can see there's a little Allen adjustment screw right there. It comes with an Allen wrench. This is how you can tighten that. So in case you guys notice, sometimes they're loose or sometimes they're stiff, you can set it to what you want by basically making the adjustment right there. Another small issue with the guitar was the intonation was not set up perfect, so it had to be adjusted. I have a video, I will put a link in the description, how I show you how you can quickly intonate your own guitar. This one needed that adjustment. Okay, so overall, I'm going to give this stability and tuning a 3.5 out of 5. It stays out of tune. It stays in tune most of the time you're using the tremolo. Every once in a while you can knock it out. The nut has been polished now. The tuning keys are original. The bridge is set perfectly, and we don't have any issues with using the original factory strings. And still, even then, I'd say you have a little better than a 60% chance of staying in tune when using the tremolo to extremes. Obviously, if you use the vibrato or the vibrato system just lightly, it works perfectly fine. So again, if you're trying to be extreme with this thing, be prepared there might be issues as well. Okay, so for some sound samples, what I'm going to use is a Fender Supersonic 22 head running into a 112 cabinet with a creamback. And I have it mic'd up with an SM57. And I'm going to run a clean channel and the dirty channel on this amp, a little bit of reverb, and we're going to start with the clean tones. Now, something to point out is what you have is a 3-way switch. So you have the humbucker, both humbuckers, and the neck humbucker. And then you have a switch right here that lets you coil split each one of these humbuckers. So you essentially get 6 combinations, 3 humbucker sounds and 3 single coils. In the middle position. bridge, we're gonna be in full humbucker mode. Let's go ahead and switch over to the overdrive side of the amplifier and start on the bridge. Okay, now we're at the neck. All right, so the final thoughts are pretty straightforward on this guitar. I think the quality of the neck is amazing. I love the way it feels. I love the rolled edges on the fretboard. The frets look amazing. The bone nut is good. The tuning keys work fine. Everything looks great. I could honestly say if you got this delivered the way I got mine from Amazon, you pull out of the box, you plug in, you play, and you're on your way. It's not gonna play like a shredder. It's not gonna play like a professional setup guitar, but it's gonna play adequate. The paint quality looks fantastic. That color is gorgeous. My only thing I didn't like was the way the pickups sounded. I thought they sounded very average, if not below average. So the question is, do I believe this Eart guitar is as professional as my custom shop G&L, which is why I wanted to pick this one to see? And the answer is... not quite. It's not 100% there, but as someone who set up guitars for professional guitar players for almost 2 decades, I could tell you that with an hour's worth of time, I could make this guitar play just like that G&L. I believe a good setup from someone who knows what they're doing and a good set of pickups would make a world of difference, to the point where I think any professional could take this guitar on tour and it would take the abuse, and in some cases even last longer than this G&L guitar. But before I go, I want to say one last thing. Please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does huge dividends to the channel. The thing that you can do the absolute most costs you nothing, so always consider that. But if not, I understand. As always, I just want to thank you for your time. Until the next time, know your gear.